Here's a fact that almost nobody is talking about honestly. The person whose contributions to AI research transformed neural networks and deep learning, the technology that powers many AI systems on the planet, from ChatGPT to Gemini and many tools disrupting every industry right now. That person, a Nobel Prize winner, was asked during the Diary of a CEO podcast interview what career he would recommend to a young person entering the job market today. His answer shocked people. He said, trying to be a plumber. The man is Geoffrey Hinton, the Godfather of AI, a nickname he has rightfully earned due to his contributions alongside other researchers to the technology reshaping our world as we know it today. And his career advice is to learn a trade. That tells you something extremely important, and that is exactly what this video is about. Because AI is coming for jobs, that part is real. It is documented, and it's already happening. So we're not going to spend a lot of time trying to pretend otherwise. But the conversation almost nobody is having clearly and honestly is this one. Which jobs is AI not coming for? Which careers have a structural wall around them the current and near future AI genuinely cannot climb? We did a bit of research into labor data using data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Occupational Outlook, and what we found that there are 10 categories of work where the numbers, the research, and the logic all point to the same conclusion. AI will transform these jobs. It will become a powerful tool within them, but it cannot replace the human at the center of them. Not today, not in 5 years, and in most cases, not in the foreseeable future. We're going to go through all 10. We're going to give you the growth projections, the salary figures, and the real reasoning for why each one holds. But first, we need to spend a few minutes on the framework because understanding why AI cannot replace these jobs is more valuable than just knowing which ones they are. If you understand the why, you can apply it to any career in any industry. There are four things that protect a job from AI. The first is physical unpredictability. AI systems, including the most advanced ones available right now, are extraordinarily capable in controlled, structured environments. They can process vast amounts of information, generate sophisticated text, and analyze complex data. But they struggle badly in real world physical environments that constantly change and surprise. Tight spaces, unexpected obstacles, conditions that shift moment to moment. The physical world, in all its messiness, remains largely out of reach for machines operating at any commercially viable scale. The second is genuine human connection. There is a growing body of research showing that humans have a deep need to be seen, heard, and cared for by another human. Not because of sentiment, but because human connection produces measurable biological and physiological outcomes that AI generated interaction simply does not replicate at the same level. When a nurse holds a patient's hand, when a therapist sits in silence with someone who is grieving, when a teacher recognizes a specific struggling student in a classroom of 30, those interactions are not just emotionally preferable. They're clinically and developmentally effective in ways that current AI cannot reproduce. The third is ethical and legal accountability. Many of the most important decisions in society, medical decisions, legal decisions, decisions about how to raise a child, decisions about how to respond in an emergency, and many others carry moral and legal weight that cannot be delegated to an algorithm. Not because the algorithm might not calculate the right answer, but because society requires a human being to stand behind that decision, to be licensed, to be liable, to be answerable. The accountability infrastructure around these decisions is a structural barrier to AI replacement. The fourth is creative and contextual judgment. Not all creativity, though. AI can generate impressive creative output, and we've seen this more and more with generative AI. But the specific form of judgment that comes from lived human experience, from navigating societal complexity, from understanding what something means to a specific community or a specific person, that remains deeply human. A machine can analyze what a song means, but it cannot fully understand why a specific song makes a specific person cry on a specific Tuesday after a specific loss. Every single job on this list sits behind at least two of these four walls. Most of them sit behind three, and a few of them, as we'll soon see, sit behind all the four. Now, let's take a look at the list. First, we have the nurse practitioner and advanced practice registered nurse. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects that employment of nurse practitioners will grow 40% from 2024 to 2034. That is not a typo. 40%. The average growth rate for all occupations in the US economy is 3%, at least as projected for the next decade. Nurse practitioners are growing at more than 13 times that rate. The BLS also projects that the broader category of advanced practice registered nurses, which includes nurse anesthetists, nurse midwives, and nurse practitioners, will grow 35% over the same period. The median annual wage for nurse practitioners, according to the BLS, is $129,210 as of May 2024. That is more than double the national median wage for all occupations. Now, why can AI not replace this work? The answer has multiple layers, and each layer is important. First, the work is physical in an unpredictable environment. A nurse is not sitting at a desk processing information. A nurse is moving through a hospital room, adjusting equipment, responding to alarms, administering medication with precise physical actions, repositioning patients to prevent bed sores, and managing situations that change second by second. A patient's condition deteriorates, right? Or other times a monitor gives a false reading. A family member enters the room and changes the emotional dynamics of the moment. Current robotic systems cannot navigate that complexity with the speed, sensitivity, and adaptability that human nurses provide. Second, the work is irreducibly human in its therapeutic value. This is not soft language. There is scientific research on this. Human touch, physical presence, and emotional attunement have measurable physiological effects on patient recovery. It is widely acknowledged that patients who receive high levels of nurse-patient interaction report better pain management, faster recovery, and higher medication compliance. AI can deliver information, true, but it cannot deliver the physiological benefit of human care. Third, nurses make split-second clinical judgments in conditions of incomplete information under pressure, with legal and ethical accountability attached to every decision that they make. They are licensed professionals. They can be held liable. There is a legal structure around this work that requires a human being to be responsible for each patient's outcome. That structure is not going away, and the accountability structure is a wall AI cannot cross. Fourth, and perhaps most fundamentally, the demand driver for this work is accelerating. The growing elderly population will increase demand for nurse practitioners and similar roles well into the future. As AI actually enters healthcare, and it is entering healthcare, it is becoming a tool that nurses use, not a system that replaces them. AI is helping nurses flag deteriorating patients faster, manage electronic records more efficiently, and access clinical decision support. This makes nurses more effective. It does not in any way make nurses less necessary. If you're a nurse or if you're considering nursing, the data says you are in the safest position in the modern economy, and the pay reflects it well. All right, let's go to career number 2, and that is the electrician. The Nobel Prize winning Godfather of AI is said to train to be a plumber. We surely could extend that to every skilled electrician in the world. Here's the data. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects 9% growth for electricians from 2024 to 2034. The average, again, is 3%. Electricians are projected to grow at 3 times the rate of the overall economy. The median annual wage is $62,350 as of May 2024, with the top 10% of earners making more than 106,000 US dollars. And the demand is only growing. The US and other countries globally are in the middle of a historic infrastructure build-out. Electric vehicle charging networks require massive amounts of new electrical work. Data centers, the physical infrastructure that runs AI itself, require enormous electrical systems that must be designed, installed, and maintained by licensed electricians. Solar panel installations, battery storage systems, and smart home technology also require electricians. Every single one of these does require for them to show up and do the work on a daily basis, or at least as scheduled. Here's why AI cannot replace an electrician in any practical sense. Every electrical installation is unique. Not two buildings are the same, logically, and not two electrical systems are the same. A licensed electrician walks into a structure, whether it's an old house with decades of modifications, a new commercial building, or a data center, and must read the actual physical environment in front of them, diagnose what is happening, adapt to unexpected discoveries behind walls and in conduit, and solve problems that were not in any blueprint that might have been offered. They solve problems that require on the spot improvisation and judgment when the standard approach will not work in a specific configuration. They work in tight spaces, they work in attics and crawl spaces and panel rooms with multiple circuits. They work in conditions that change constantly. They use multiple senses simultaneously, like sight, sound, smell, to detect problems with the help of the tools at their disposal. They are able to detect the smell of an overheating wire, for example, the sound of a faulty connection, the tactile feedback of a breaker that does not feel right. Current robotics cannot do this work at any commercially realistic scale. The gap between what current robotic systems can reliably accomplish and what a skilled electrician does every day remains enormous. And crucially, electricians must be licensed. They are accountable for their work. Insurance, building codes, and legal liability structures. And this means that a human professional must sign off on all electrical work that is being done. The accountability requirement is not going away anytime soon. So if you're an electrician or thinking about becoming one, the data says you're in a structurally strong position. The work that runs the AI economy, the data centers, the EV infrastructure, the smart grid, all of it needs you, essentially. All right, let's go to career number 3, and that is the mental health therapist and counselor. We need to be precise here because this is a newest one, and we want to be honest with you. AI-powered mental health apps exist. Some might argue they have shown real benefit in studies, particularly for mild to moderate anxiety and depression symptoms. We're not here to argue about this, and we're not going to pretend otherwise. But look at the data on licensed mental health professionals. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects 17% growth for substance abusers, behavioral disorder, and mental health counselors from 2024 to 2034. That is nearly 6 times the average growth rate for all occupations. The BLS projects about 48,300 openings per year in this field on average across the decade. And again, the median annual wage is around $59,190 as of May 2024. This thus means that the fast growth for community and social service occupations will stem from individuals seeking assistance for challenges, including marriage and family counseling, as well as substance abuse counseling and support. So, why is this career safe, you may ask? Because the US and other countries in the world, again, are in the middle of a mental health crisis that no AI app has come close to solving. Demand for licensed therapists and counselors is outpacing supply significantly. Many regions have waiting lists month long for licensed mental health professionals, right? So you want to see a mental professional, oftentimes you have to schedule, right? Maybe you wait for a week, you may wait for a month, you may wait for however long it takes to see one. But beyond demand, there's other reasons why AI can structurally not replace this work. Therapy is not the delivery of information. This is the most important thing to understand. A therapist is not a database that gives you correct facts about cognitive behavioral therapy, right? A therapist is the human being who creates a specific kind of relational safety, right? Through presence, through consistency, through the experience of being genuinely understood by another person who is also accountable, who is also bound by ethics, who has made a professional commitment to the client's well being. That relational experience has therapeutical value that is independent of any information delivered. Research in the therapeutic science literature consistently identifies the therapeutic alliance, that is to say, the quality of the relationship between client and therapist, as the single strongest predictor of positive therapeutic outcomes across all modalities of therapy. The therapeutic alliance is, by definition, a human to human phenomenon. Beyond that, a licensed therapist is trying to notice what is not being said, the pause before an answer, the physical tension in someone's body, the contradiction between words and effect, the cultural context that shapes how someone understands their own experience. These are not things that can be reliably detected or responded to appropriately by a text based or voice based AI system. Not now, or at least not yet. A licensed therapist is also a mandated reporter. They carry professional licensing obligations. They can face legal and professional consequences for failures of clinical judgment. The accountability structure cannot be delegated to a software system. The demand for this work is growing because the mental health needs of the population are growing and they continue to do so. Trained human clinicians are the response to that need, not AI. All right, let's look at the fourth one, and that is the plumber, taking us back to Geoffrey Hinton's comment during the interview. Here's what he said in the 2025 podcast interview that plumbers are less at risk than workers like legal assistants or paralegals. His reasoning was direct. Yes, plumbing requires physical presence in constantly varied real world environments. It cannot be automated from a server farm. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects 4% growth for plumbers, pipe fitters, and stream fitters from 2024 to 2034, in line with the average for all occupations. The BLS projects roughly 44,000 openings per year on average across the decade. The median annual wage is roughly around $62,970 as of May 2024, with the top 10% earning more than 105,000. That puts you already in a six-figure salary. And here's why plumbing is structurally resistant to AI replacement. Plumbing is one of the clearest examples of a job protected by physical unpredictability. A plumber working a service call enters a building, possibly old, possibly modified over decades, possibly presenting problems no previous plumber has documented, and must physically navigate to where the problem is. They often crawl through spaces, inside walls, under the floors. They must diagnose using physical inspection, pressure testing, and knowledge built from years of hands on experience. They must then solve the problem with their hands and their tools in a space that is different every single time. The cost of deploying a robotic system capable of reliably navigating residential plumbing environments would far exceed the cost of the repair itself. That is not an argument against future technology. It is great, but it is an accurate description of where robotic capability stands today and where it is realistically headed in the near term. Plumbers are licensed professionals in most jurisdictions. The work is subject to code compliance and inspection. Geoffrey Hinton was not being casual when he said to become a plumber. He was being precise about the structural barriers to automation. All right, let's go back. Let's go now to number five, which most would have expected to probably be on this list, and that is a surgeon. We want to be precise here because the nuance genuinely matters. AI is entering surgery, and that is real. Robotic surgical systems have been used in operating rooms for years and continue to improve. AI is being used to analyze preoperative imaging, assisting with planning, and to provide real time guidance during procedures. But what is actually happening is this: these systems are tools that surgeons use. They extend the surgeon's precision. They do not, and in the foreseeable future, cannot replace the decision making of the surgeon. Surgery involves making consequential decisions in conditions of genuine uncertainty in real time, where unexpected findings require immediate adaptation and where every patient's anatomy differs from the textbook model. A surgeon encounters unexpected bleeding, a tumor that has extended differently than imaging suggested, a patient whose physiological response is unexpected during a procedure. Each, each of these situations requires a clinical judgment that calls for multiple responses and a time pressure with outcomes that are immediately life critical. That judgment must be made by a licensed physician who is legally and ethically accountable for it. No regulatory framework in any developed country currently permits the life critical surgical decisions to be made autonomously by AI systems. Given the liability and ethical stakes involved, that regulatory barrier is not dissolving in any near-term time frame. According to the BLS, the median annual wage for surgeons is about 239,000, and the Association of American Medical Colleges has projected a significant physical shortage in the US in the coming years, driven by an aging population and an aging physician workforce. This is a field where demand is outpacing supply. That is the opposite of a problem that you can solve by automation. AI will, in the long run, thus make surgeons more capable, but it will in no way replace them. All right, let's move on to the next one. And this one as well, I think most of you would have expected to find, is the elementary school teacher. Before we say anything else, let us be clear about what research on AI in education actually shows. AI tutoring tools have demonstrated genuine effectiveness for certain specific tasks: math practice, structured reading comprehension, vocabulary acquisition. These tools are real and they have value. We're not dismissing them. But look at what that data shows about teachers themselves. The BLS projects growth in education occupations through 2034. The median annual wage range for elementary school teachers is approximately 64 to 68,000, according to BLS data. In many states, salaries have been increasing as teacher shortages have worsened, driven precisely by the inability to replace classroom teachers with automated systems. So, what makes teaching structurally resistant to AI replacement, right? Um, First, it's not only about information delivery, right? It is what great teachers actually do beyond the information delivery in itself. A great teacher is a development professional. They manage the social and emotional dynamics of a classroom of about 25 to 30 children, each at a different developmental stage with different home circumstances, different cognitive styles, and different emotional states on any given day. They notice the child who is withdrawing because something is wrong at home. They build the trust that allows children to take the intellectual risks that relearning requires. They mediate social dynamics. They adapt their approach in real time to specific human beings in front of them. That is professional human development work. AI can assist meaningfully, of course, by automating administrative tasks, helping with differentiation, providing feedback on structured exercises, but it does not replace what teachers do at the center of their profession. The legal framework around child education is also a structural barrier. Teachers are licensed, they are legally responsible for the students in their care, and are also mandated reporters. Their accountability is non delegable. All right, let's look at career number 7, and that is the social worker. The BLS projects 11% growth in social work occupations overall through 2034, more than 3 times the average. Healthcare social workers and mental health and substance abuse social workers had a median annual wage of about 68,000 as of May 2024, with the lowest 10% earning less than 41,580 and the highest 10% earning more than 99,500, almost pushing them through the six-figure salary. The BLS's August 2025 projections explicitly call out community and social service occupations as a fast growing group. So, what do social workers do that AI cannot replicate? Social workers operate at the intersection of human crisis and institutional systems. They assess families in the middle of a breakdown. They evaluate child welfare situations that may involve abuse or danger. They help elderly individuals navigate complex care decisions, right? They assist people with addiction in connecting with treatment and support. They work with people experiencing homelessness, with veterans, with immigrants navigating unfamiliar systems. Every single one of these situations requires the kind of contextualized human judgment that current AI cannot match. A social worker walks into a home and reads that environment physically, emotionally, relationally, in ways no algorithm fully replicates. They must make determinations that carry legal weight and profound human consequences. They must build trust with people who have often been failed by institutions before. They must navigate cultural and community contexts that are invisible to a general purpose AI system. Social workers are licensed professionals too, right? They are mandatory reporters, and they work within court systems, hospital systems, child welfare agencies, and social systems, all of which require an accountable human professional to be responsible for each of the cases that they handle. The accountability structure is not going away anytime soon. And the demand is growing, right? An aging population drives accelerating demand for elder care, social, hence driving for driving uh, further need for social workers as well. A persistent mental health crisis also does the same thing, right? So the complexity of modern social challenges is increasing. We don't see it reducing. All right. Um, let's go to the next one, and that's number 8, if you're keeping track, and that is the cybersecurity analyst. This is the one job on this list that is not merely safe from AI; it is made more essential by AI's existence, right? And I'm about to explain why. Um, the BLS projects 29% growth for information security analysts from 2024 to 2034. That is more than 9 times the average growth rate for all occupations. The BLS projects roughly 16,000 openings per year on average across the decade, and the median annual wage for the role is around $124,910, which is already in the six-figure range as per May 2024. So, why is it that cybersecurity is actually made more necessary in the age of AI, not less? Uh, well, one, because AI is being used by attackers, right? Not just the defenders. The same technology that makes businesses more productive is being weaponized by cyber criminals, nation state actors, and malicious organizations to conduct attacks at scale, at speed, and with a sophistication that was not possible before, right? So, AI generated phishing emails are now indistinguishable from legitimate communications. AI tools that are being used to find vulnerabilities in software systems are sometimes faster, right, than human programmers can patch them. AI systems are being deployed to conduct social engineering attacks at a scale no human operation could ever achieve. So, defending against this requires human cybersecurity professionals who would understand not just the technical dimensions of attacks, but the human, the social, and organizational dimensions that attackers exploit. So, some of these things could include things like why did a particular employee click on that link, right? What does the pattern of this intrusion tell us about the intent and the identity of the attacker? Or what are the specific vulnerabilities in this organization's culture and processes that created this opening, right? Uh, Thinking of the Trojan horse, if some of you can relate to that analogy. So those are not just questions that AI answers alone on its own. They require human judgment, organizational understanding, adversarial thinking, and the ability to communicate risk and response to non technical stakeholders, right? From board members to frontline employees. The BLS August 2025 projections report states directly that the frequency and the severity of cyber attacks and data breaches on US businesses is expected to lead to greater demand for information security analysts. And a significant driver of that increase in attacks is AI in itself. This is a field where AI fluency is itself part of the job requirement. Yes, cybersecurity professionals who understand AI systems and AI enabled attacks are commanding premium salaries and are in extremely high demand. But the human analyst is not being replaced. The human analyst is, in fact, becoming more important and more valuable. Let's go on to the ninth career, and that is the construction manager. This one is not intuitive, but once you understand it, it is obvious. The BLS projects 9% growth for construction managers from 2024 to 2034. That is three times the average rate. The BLS projects roughly 46,800 openings per year on average across the decade. The median annual wage is around 106,980 as of May 2024. So, what does a construction manager do, and why would we say that their work is resistant to AI? A construction manager is responsible for the physical realization of a complex human project, right? A building, a bridge, a hospital, a highway. And this is often in a real world environment that is constantly changing, constantly presenting unexpected conditions, and constantly requiring judgment calls that balance safety, cost, schedule, quality, and regulatory compliance. They're essentially on job sites every day. They are managing multiple contractors and subcontractors simultaneously, and each of them have their own schedules, pretty much personal challenges and also technical requirements. So on a day-to-day, they are solving problems that emerge when realities uh, diverge from the plans they had in mind. And one thing that we all know from construction projects is that reality always almost diverges from the plans that we have at hand. So some of this could include soil conditions that differ from the survey, weather that affects concrete curing, a delivery that does not arrive on time, a worker injury that requires immediate response, a local inspector who raises a court concern that requires a real-time negotiation, right? So even in the construction industry, AI is being utilized, right? So um, it is a powerful tool, yes, and it can support with things like building information modeling software, AI pod project management platforms, and drone-based site monitoring, right? Which we have all seen changing um, with the involvement of AI. But they are making construction managers more capable and not necessarily replacing them, right? Because every AI tool deployed on a construction site still requires a human being to interpret its outputs, to make judgment calls based on those outputs, and also to take legal responsibility for those decisions and manage the human dimensions of the project. Construction managers are licensed in most jurisdictions, same as all other professions that we've been talking about, and they carry professional liability, right? They are the accountable human in a system of enormous complexity and consequence. That accountability cannot be automated in any way, or at least not in the moment. As global infrastructure investment grows, driven by climate adaptation, the energy transition, urbanization, and the need to replace aging infrastructure built in the 20th century, the demand for construction managers will surely grow with it. And now we are on to the final one, which is number 10, and that is home health and personal care aid. So we saved this one for last because it reveals the deepest truth about why human work remains irreplaceable. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects 17% growth for home health and personal care aids from 2024 to 2034. That is more than 5 times the average growth rate. The BLS projects roughly 765,800 openings per year for this occupation on average over the course of the next decade. And according to BLS Career Outlook data that was published in 2025, so more recent than the 2024 ones that we've been using, home health and personal care aids is projected to have the most openings of any occupation in the economy and at its educational level. So the current workforce is approximately 4.3 million workers, and the median annual wage for that profession is around 35,000 as of May 2024, 34,900 to be exact. So we want to acknowledge directly that this wage is modest, right? And that there is a genuine society conversation to be had about how we value and compensate for care work. But the structural job security here is still profound. And I'll be diving a bit more into why we say so. So the US, like most developed countries, are aging rapidly, right? The baby boomer generation, born between 1946 and 1964, approximately 73 million Americans, right? Those numbers are still big and staggering as well across other countries. Um, all of these people are in their later stages of life, right? So the demand for in-home care, for personal assistance, for the kind of hands-on daily support that allows elderly and disabled people to maintain independence and dignity, that demand is growing in a way that no technology is positioned to fully address. And here's also another profound truth that is at the center of this role. The work of a home health aide is very much so irreducibly human, right? It is the work of being present with the person, right? Of helping them bathe, dress, eat, move safely through their home, right? Take walks in the neighborhood, um, of talking with them, right? Noticing when something seems wrong and providing care, right? And the most important word or phrase we may use here is not this the simulation of care necessarily, right? But actually caring in the way one human being attends to the other. Robots can certainly perform certain physical tasks. They can remind, they can monitor, but they cannot provide presence. And for vulnerable and vulnerable, um, for vulnerable for vulnerable and elderly people, human presence is part of the care itself. That is why the demand of this work just keeps growing, and why an automation trend has reversed that growth. This is work that will exist in growing volume for decades and in communities across every income level, right? And all across the world. Because, at least as we've seen, as per the population growth patterns, the trajectory seems to be going upwards, which means we have more people being born, but also the uh, older ones are living longer than they previously did. And so you just have this continued need for care. All right, so that was a really long one, and we've successfully looked at the 10 jobs. And we want to make sure that you live with more than just a list of the jobs, right? So we're going to take this time to look at the patterns. Every job that we just discussed is protected by at least two of the four walls that we described at the beginning of this video, right? So we have physical unpredictability, we have genuine human connection, we have legal and ethical accountability, and we also have contextual judgment from lived human experience. The jobs most affected by AI share the opposite characteristics. They involve processing information, right? Generating text, performing structured cognitive tasks, making routine decisions from data sets, and operating in predictable, well-defined problem spaces, right? So these jobs are changing, and that change is real and here to stay, right? And we will not pretend otherwise. But the jobs on this list, right, that we talked about, the nurse practitioner growing 40%, the electrician building the infrastructure that runs AI itself, the therapist whose presence cannot be replicated on a screen, or the plumber navigating the unpredictable physical world. These jobs are not just surviving AI. Most of them are growing because of the same forces driving AI adoption, right? An aging population, or infrastructure that needs rebuilding, or a mental health crisis that requires more human counselors, or the changing landscape of cybersecurity because of more AI supported attacks than we've had in the past. All this um, led to the demand of more humans to be at the center of these solutions. So Geoffrey Hinton told young people to train to be plumbers, right? And also the BLS data tells us he was pointing to something real and much larger than plumbing alone. So there is an entire catalog of human work built around the physical, the relational, and the accountable. uh, you could also add the contextual as well that the AI in its essence as we know it today cannot replace. So if you're in one of these professions, your skills are more valuable in this economy than the headlines suggest. So definitely keep uh, keep at it. Definitely be flexible, but keep pursuing the careers that you're pursuing. And if you're thinking about your next career move, ask whether it sits behind these four walls that we have discussed, right? And if you work in a field that is facing genuine disruption, the most important question you can ask is this: which parts of my work require genuine human judgment, genuine human presence, and genuine human accountability? Because those are the parts that are worth protecting, developing, and building a career around.